Welcome to NocBro Nation.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Jarrell here.
And I am Josh, and today we're here to discuss 10 things that we will never know about the Walking Dead comics now that it has come to an abrupt end.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this article was actually published by ScreenRant.com. We saw it and wanted to have a discussion about it because it is some items that we've actually talked about prior to this coming out, and we wanted to have, longer discussion on it.
Yeah, so we did a video not too long ago. I think Screen Rant did another thing about 10 things of the Walking Dead series of how it ended. And one or two of these might have been in there, but there are a couple of these that are some really great questions of things that we may not, we'll never know. And things that I didn't think about or we didn't think about. So let's get into this. So number 10.
So let me just start this with number 10. I think number 10 assumes that the story would have continued after 193.
Yes. And and most of these are the story would have continued. So number 10 is HERSHEL an antagonist? So we saw HERSHEL was very pissed off at Carl for killing his walker because he's using walkers for entertainment now. He was vying revenge on Carl. He wanted to put him in jail for this. So if the story would have continued, do we think that HERSHEL would have become an antagonist really in the story?
The next enemy for our survivors.
Yeah, because he's...
Or at least Carl.
Right, because he kind of... With how HERSHEL was, it was kind of like he didn't feel that he didn't give respect to Rick. He felt like a lot of this was maybe his fault. And the way that things turned out just wasn't good. So I think he would have gone head to head with Carl on a lot of things. So
one of HERSHEL's last lines to Carl was almost like an open-ended threat. Like,
yeah.
Your dad gets gets the memory of your dad all over the place, and my dad,
right.
It wasn't a very good conversation to end on between the two. I don't remember exactly what happened, but
right.
You could very well see that HERSHEL possibly could have been, the next evil person.
Yeah. All right. So number 9, how many walkers are there now? We kind of touched this last time, but the big thing is HERSHEL was mad at Carl, of course, because he killed one of his entertainment walkers, which he says there aren't that many in the safe zone. So we're led to possibly believe, how many are there in their whole area, in the whole country?
In the world?
In the world, because, they've expanded out west, and we just don't know how many of there are anymore because they seem safer.
Yeah,
especially in their safe zone.
What's really interesting about this particular topic is before the comic came to an end, Robert Kirkman even said that the story would eventually get to the point where there were no to very little walkers in the world. And it just so happened that the story ended shortly after that. But yeah, I mean, I am a firm believer that the state of decay in a body naturally probably would have eliminated walkers faster than what we eliminated them in the comic and the show. But again, those are just mediums that, you kind of stretch the truth. But in reality, I would not be surprised if there were no walkers at all. Fresh ones from people dying? Okay.
So basically, everyone knows that when you die, you're going to turn. But if you're in a community, they know how to control that. So now we're possibly thinking that now pretty much the only walkers that are walking around are people that are not part of any community. They're out on their own. And of course, when they die, they're just going to turn. And those other people might just run and get away from there. So that actually makes a lot of sense. So if you're in part of a community, you're going to have control over when you die. You're not going to become a walker.
Which is something we always inquired about with the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
How are you handling your dead?
Number 8.
What happened between Maggie and Dante?
Yeah, so, prior to the big time jump, I mean, we don't know what happened to Dante. We don't know what happened between him and Maggie.
Dante, I don't even believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was in the final issue.
I don't think he was mentioned at all.
No.
So, even before that, Maggie was very cautious when she even started dating Dante.
They got caught.
They did get caught.
Everybody knew, and that was a cool scene.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that they were together.
Yeah. But she was still somewhat embarrassed.
She was brought out. She is Madame President. And we never heard anything about Dante at all. So
never heard from him again. So hopefully he's alive and well, but we don't know. So, and we'll never know.
I guess he wasn't that important of a character to, give a final goodbye or, page on.
This is a big one. Number 7. What was the immediate fallout from Rick's death? Yeah, I mean, after Rick's death, boom, we jump 15, 20 years. We don't know what happened in the aftermath. What happened? How did people take it? The people who were with Rick, the people who were against Rick, were there conflicts in the Commonwealth between people, like fighting for power? Michonne fighting for power, Maggie fighting for power, Governor Milton trying to come back to... I mean, that would be something cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Or did this springboard the community that is what we know in 193? For example, because Milton... I'm sorry, not Milton. Sebastian thing.
Yeah, Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian. Was Sebastian put on trial? And because of that trial, did we get the law or legal system that we see in 193, where Michonne is pretty much the de facto deciding, leadership? Was Maggie and the vote to have a president all brought on because of the events of Rick's death?
Yeah.
Very interesting to know that.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see. I mean, not like don't string it out for very long, but it would be nice to see the immediate fallout, and then you can jump ahead.
It would have been nice to see Rick's burial.
That would have been cool to see.
I would have loved to see the plot between Andrea and him.
Yeah, them constructing the statue. Who deciding on or voting on. Does he get a statue? Does he not get a statue?
I don't.
Who wants to build? You know what I'm saying?
No vote needed for that.
Well, for us, no. But we don't know what happens in the Commonwealth. So,
but yeah. I just, obviously the title, we're never going to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, what happened? Did Alexandria revolt and try and immediately come into the Commonwealth and stake their claim?
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of the Commonwealth, that leads us right in number 6, which I know we touched on before. Just how big is the Commonwealth? 50,000 strong? Never saw it.
Never saw it.
No.
The most we saw was a football game worth, and their football game was not even. There wasn't even that many people present.
They had another community outside of that, which wasn't very big, but
I was
a thing.
I was a firm believer that they were like the British, where they were this head, country, and they were going to start developing and taking over smaller communities, and basically colonizing the United States, much like it was done before.
Right.
I thought that was going to be some kind of storyline there, and
number 5 is, when did Negan return?
Yes.
Meaning, we saw a glimpse of him in 193. He was paying respects to his wife Lucille. Carl even went to his house to give him supplies, to try to talk to him. So after the events of 174, where he was cast out, Maggie left him alive. What did he do? Where did he go? Yeah. And how did he end up in the area around Alexandria or even the Commonwealth?
Assuming that is the area.
Yeah, we don't really know.
We don't truly know how close he is to the safe zone. Yeah. But when if he did return to the safe zone, when was that? What was that like? Who did he talk to get? Maggie, we are assuming, is the president.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have to get the president's approval? The same person that you killed her husband?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Dude. So that's why we're hoping that Robert Kirkman and crew comes out with a little mini-series of Negan to tell that story in between 174 and 193.
Yeah, the only problem with that is after that story's over, you have Negan basically living a solitary life.
Yeah.
Not wanting to come out of the house, and when he does, it's for supplies.
Which is fine. For me, that's fine. I just want that story in between.
I'd like to get back to badass Negan. And if it takes after the events of 193 to do that, give me a series about that.
They could write it. Something could happen and piss him off, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to make it.
We were promised more Negan, and we never got it.
Yeah. So number 4, what happened between Carl and Lydia? That was a big thing. So... Lydia and him, she was poking fun at him, trying to get him, not in a way get him back to her, but she was poking fun at him. But I mean, do we really need to know what happened between those two? It'd be nice just to hear it, but nothing.
We don't truly know what happened. I mean, there wasn't really any definitive hint as to who did who wrong. Like, who left who? Was it mutual? Did Lydia decide to leave her, Carl for this guy, or did Carl decide to leave Lydia for Sophia?
Yeah. So, which leads us into number 3. How did Carl and Sophia get back together?
Exactly.
I mean, was it immediately after, let's say Carl and Lydia broke up, and maybe there were things going on. Maybe Carl was hanging out with Sophia more, and
essentially, what's the story there?
Right.
I mean, look, I think that Carl and Sophia always had this bond.
They have always
throughout the series.
Yeah.
And we even got teased as the story closed out before the big jump that Sophia was kind of getting jealous at times.
She was.
Lydia was getting jealous that Sophia was around. Carl was trying to hook up Sophia with other people.
Yeah.
But there was always that mutual respect for one another, and I think that's eventually what led to them being together in the end.
Number 2, what is the status of the rest of the world? That's always been a big thing for us. It's not just Eastern United States, the United States, there's the world. What's going on in the rest of the world?
Well, we'll start with the United States. That's one question, is Eastern and Western Alliance.
Yeah.
We know that there's a Western Alliance. What that means is that there were communities popping up in the West, and eventually those two factions are now coming together, or they were at the end of 193. So how is that going to work? How are laws going to work? How is the world going to be built? The United States, the nation, going to be built? Is there a United States? Are they still claiming there's a United States? But if you expand that out, how's the rest of the world reacting to this?
That's one big thing I've always loved to see is what's going on in the rest of the world. If you haven't checked out The Walking Dead, The Alien, check that out. That is based out of Barcelona, Spain. It also has Rick Grimes' brother in that.
That is the only comic book reference of the Walking Dead universe apocalyptic event outside of the United States. That's the only comic book representation that I'm aware of.
Yes, there is a novel coming out.
Correct.
The Walking Dead Typhoon by Wesley Chi, and that's going to be coming out soon, which that's based in China, Shanghai. There's a lot of people over there.
Millions.
So a lot of walkers.
You could make the argument that they're probably or were in a worse spot than the United States, any country.
And I think the book's going to be based in Shanghai, which is one of the largest populations in the world. Just imagine that city.
Oh man!
But yes, I mean, seeing what's going on around the rest of the world. Now, could Kirkman have written something like that? Would have been tough because. Okay, I mean, the closest he could probably go, like Canada, Mexico, they'd have to take a boat to go across the ocean overseas, which would take a long time.
Which we did get a boat. So, we did get sea travel or
Michonne,
water travel on boats, right? With Michonne, But to do that in a comic, it's too much.
For his story, it'd be tough unless
unless you did another series.
Expanding out Western Alliances, maybe they're down in Mexico or something, or Northern Alliance, they're up in Canada.
What would have been really cool, and this would have been awesome if you still continued with the Walking Dead flagship series. Say that we continue on after 193. We take the same story that we have of 193, but we also put out another comic book called The Walking Dead: The Western Alliance.
Oh yeah.
And you line those stories up so that when this issue comes out, it deals with content in this issue, but it only deals with the Western Alliance, kind of like a show.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be cool.
Would have been freaking awesome to do, but again, we're never going to see that.
Right. So the number one question or number one thing we'll never know, and we have discussed this before, is what was the cause of the outbreak?
I can't tell you how many times Robert Kirkman has been asked that.
We'll never know.
And he's never going. So
we'll never know.
This particular question, while it's number one, I think probably should have been off the list because this gets asked all the time. And Robert Kirkman has been adamant about the fact that he's not going to tell. And honestly, he may not even have a cause of the outbreak.
No. And we discussed it, numerous times as well. I mean, we've had so many theories of how this could have started, but it's something we'll never know. And, some of these other questions we could have known, but this one, number one, I don't think ever. We would never know that.
Even if the series continued, even if it went 500 issues and somehow, there was a clue in there about the outbreak, we would never have gotten any type of cause ever.
Never. So, you know, these were some really good ones. A lot of these were some good questions to where certain storylines could have been done after 193. Because as you guys know, there was a 15-year time jump, 15, 20 years. So a lot of content could have been done, plus not just in between that, but even after that, which what they were planning on doing. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of these could have been done. So
absolutely. You know, hey, in the end, this it keeps The Walking Dead around for us because we get to talk about topics like this that we would have loved to see, and who knows, maybe we'll get The Walking Dead, the Western Alliance comic book series, who follows a character from issue 1 finding his family and bringing up the new world in the Western Alliance.
That's
all
right.
the way up to issue 193.
Boom.
And ends it there.
That would be cool. So let us know your thoughts in the comments, guys, off of these 10 things that we'll never know from The Walking Dead. Please let us know in the comments. We would love to conversate with you on these. Give the video a quick like. It shows your support, and it does support the channel. Feel free to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you always be notified of content coming from us. And stay tuned. We'll still throw in some Walking Dead comic videos here and there because we're never going to be done talking about it. Nope. So follow us on NocBro Nation on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Jarrell.
I'm Josh.
We're NocBro Nation.
We're out.